go ahead with your questions.
Coach, is it starting to feel like football despite the pandemic now?
Say it one more time.
It's starting to feel like real football.
Are the position groups Zooming, or are they in the room together, the position groups?
Most position groups are together, aside from the quarterbacks. The quarterbacks, we keep all of them separate. They're all in different rooms, Zooming through Dan Pitcher's room. So that part's been pretty fun.
How do you envision a quarterback quarantine? Would there be like one or two guys that are sitting in a hotel somewhere and they don't practice ever, or do they practice some of it? Or
we keep them apart as best we can right now. Obviously, with the social distancing, we're going to keep them in different offices so we can limit that interaction over the course of the day. Obviously, at your practice, just as the world's going right now, you try to keep guys apart. We have the bracelets that do tell you if your red light's going off, you're too close, and so that makes it easier than normal. Aside from that, we brought in a guy and we keep him apart from those other three quarterbacks, and but they all still learn at the same pace. They were all out there at the walkthrough today trying to stay apart from each other, but we'll manage it. It kind of evolves from day to day how that's going to look. But again, we got 4 of them right now, and we feel like we're doing a good job keeping them all safe.
So you got one quarterback in each in a different room, like one court. So Burrow's in one room, Dolegala's in one, Brandon Allen's in another. Correct? Just all spread out.
Yep,
okay.
That's right.
So when you do
Allen, go ahead, Len.
When you do the walkthrough, coach, I mean, in the huddle, break the huddle, 11 on 11 at the line of scrimmage.
Mm-hmm.
Is it 6-foot splits, social distancing, splits up front?
No, that part's not going to change, and so it's just our players and coaches being mindful that when we can control it to try to create that distance from one another. But football is football, and when you're in a huddle and you're at the line of scrimmage, we're not going to be able to control that any differently than we have before, and so our guys just proceed as normal.
Zach, we don't get to come to practice until I think August 17th. Just what's the next 2 weeks look like now that you have everybody in the building?
The next 2 weeks are going to be the same schedule every single day. It's they can lift, they can run, we can meet with them. We do our best to meet virtually. When we have 2 meetings a day, one of them typically is going to be virtual, so that way that we don't always have the offense, the defense meeting at the same time, and then we can go on field and do the walkthroughs. So we can't observe as coaches anything full speed. But again, it's 2 good weeks where you do get 8 days of good work in, and you got to give them 1 day off being that 9th day. So it's still a lot of good work for us.
If I'm not mistaken, Friday's walkthrough was the first time you've ever seen Joe Burrow throw in person, correct?
Technically, I didn't watch him throw. We're not out there where they're throwing, but he was out there calling cadence and handing the ball off and all that good stuff. That would be the first time I've seen him, yes.
What was your impression of him with just his physical mannerisms and the way that he interacted in person? I mean, what could you gauge, if anything, from that?
Well, confident. He's obviously been in the playbook and understands what we're trying to do. It doesn't mean it was perfect. We had balls on the ground, center quarterback exchanges, and some of the handoffs, and there's things to work out with any rookie at all the positions that we had. And it was good to get those rookies in and get them on the field a couple days. I think we got 4 days of working before the veterans showed up. And so today everyone was really in sync because the vets have done these plays before and they feel a lot more comfortable. The rookies had 4 days on their own to get up to speed. And so it really meshed at the right time, this 5th day, where the rookies have some confidence. They've been doing it. Now the vets join. They've had confidence from doing it from last year. So it was a good mesh between the 2 groups.
Zach, the deadlines. How do you try to evaluate tackling and instincts and physicality? What's your plan to approach that as you go through the schedule?
We have to do our best to replicate the games that we're missing, the preseason games we're missing. So we're going to have some scrimmage opportunities. There's more situations in practice where we'll create some live situations because we have to evaluate our roster and see who can tackle, all the things that are going to be important on game days. So it does create a different training camp schedule than we've had in years past. But again, we feel like we're still going to get the same amount of work done that we normally do. We're going to have more live periods than we ever have in the past. But again, I think that we'll be on a good pace to be ready for the first game.
Are you going to have scrimmages? Are you going to have like inter-squad scrimmages? And how many would you have, and what would they be like?
We will. We'll have 3 or 4 different opportunities where we create some situations where we can really evaluate our guys in a game-like atmosphere.
Are you planning to have 14 padded practices?
We probably won't get to 14, but we're going to use most of the ones that we're allotted.
Zach, with Thursday now, the deadline for guys to opt out, do you anticipate any more? You feel pretty confident that most of your guys are staying in that are in?
Not that's been communicated to me. We feel good about the group that's in here right now.
Coach, with respect to contact, again, you mentioned the scrimmages. Do you do things like, 7-on-7, the interior run stuff, the half line drills? Do you do any of that stuff full bore?
Probably not the 7-on-7, but again, there's more situations we'll create where we put those guys in position on offense and defense to play in space, break tackles, be better tacklers on defense overall and on special teams. And so, again, that part's been fun, talking through it with the staff of what this training camp's going to look like over the next 30 days. We feel like we have a really good plan in place. It's going to help our team be ready.
Yesterday on the wire, Xavier Suafilo and Rennell Wren went across with injuries. Can you give any insight as to what's going on with those guys?
Yeah, just again, guys that report, we didn't get a chance to see them in the spring in some ways. And so some of them just need a couple days to get back ready to go. That's really all the information I have on those two right now.
Moves you made yesterday got you to 79, one under the limit. Are you holding a spot for Kendall Futrell, or do you anticipate signing a free agent at some point this week?
I think that we are open to looking at a lot of different positions across the board as you see guys get out there. But again, we'll evaluate our team that we have right here in the building for a couple days and see where we're at, and then make some of those decisions further. But again, we're open to a lot of things right now to add to our roster.
Coach, how much have you talked to the guys about staying safe after they leave the facilities when they go home, given that training camp is going to be a grind?
We've talked to our guys about being mature, being unselfish. It's going to be critical this year, and a lot of things you've been allowed to do in the past, we can't do it this year. And that's just the way it is. And we have to accept that and have to be mature about it. You're not just taking care of yourself and your family, but your teammates and your coaches and their families as well. And so far, we've haven't had any positive tests since our players have walked in the building, and we've been testing them every single day. So they've done a nice job. We know that you can't relax. We've learned that from just watching the sports world throughout, and those serve as great examples for us to show our players and our coaches. And so, again, we're going to be very disciplined with what we ask our players and our staff to do. And so far, so good.
Is this one of the reasons that you draft a lot of former captains and leaders, that now when you have something like a pandemic, that these guys understand as a leadership trait, you got to really toe the line on something like this?
That's right. It often goes hand in hand with guys that love football and being around football and doing all those things, are typically pretty mature individuals off the field as well. You got that trust factor with them as well. So the players that were here last year, the players that we've added to the building, they all fit that same mold where they're guys that we can trust to do the right thing when they leave the building.
Zach, have you or anyone from the Bengals reached out to the Reds? They've been going through this for about a month, and it seems to be ever evolving, things that they didn't anticipate happened and things like that. Has anybody?
I have not personally. I know that we have staff members that have reached out to people across various leagues to make sure that we have a full grasp of what's going on, and our medical staff has done a great job in that way. And so, again, we get new protocols every single day that are helping not only our team but the rest of the league. But again, I think we've had a really good plan in place. We just can't relax in any way, shape, or form, and we got to keep taking care of each other.
Just getting back to the quarterback, is Allen going to be your guy, your designated guy to keep away from everybody?
We'll just see how it goes throughout training camp, but it's good to get him in the building. He's got familiarity with the system, right, not only from the 2 years in LA, but last year in Denver. And so he's a guy that can get up to speed very quickly. And that way we have plenty of options as we get through training camp.
Is Joe Burrow as quick a study as people have said, now that you've had some time to be around him, Zoom, now on the field and everything? Is he really as sharp as people say?
He just has a really good understanding of football, and so Finley's the same way, being around those two, and Jake's coming along as well. So that room you really feel like has learned from last year. Obviously, Joe wasn't here last year, but he is a quick study, like you said. So you're able to have some higher level conversations in there, really on the fifth day of these guys being in the building, So that's been good to see, because we're going to need that with the shortened training camp and no preseason games. We need those types of conversations, and I've been really impressed with the whole group.
How does AJ Green look out there? This time last year, you already lost him.
It makes me really happy watching him just walk through routes even. But he's obviously been studying it, and it was just really good to see him out there for the first day of practice.
Do you envision breaking up like the offense, and do you envision having 2 different practices down the road, like rolling out the first unit and then rolling out the second unit separately? Or
it's right now we have our training camp practices that we'll follow, and when we get closer to the season, I think that those are discussions that we'll have to lay out and figure out the best way, because now you got a game lurking around the corner. And not only do you not want to lose someone because they're sick, but you don't want to lose someone just from being too close to someone who's sick, who might not be sick, but they have to go through the protocols. So again, we don't want anyone to miss a day of training camp, but you'd rather them miss a day of training camp than actually miss the game. So the way we go about things may evolve as we get to September and get closer to the first game.
Zach, that wristband you wear that turns red if you get too close, have you gotten used to it, or does it still seem foreign to you?
It just feels like a watch, really. It feels like an Apple Watch. The first couple of days I had a lanyard around my neck, but sometimes you take that off and misplace it. So I've just found it's been a little bit easier. Most of the players have an actual wristband. It's embedded. They slip it into the wristband. So you really get to the point where you don't notice it.
Do the players take that off when you go out to the practice field, I would assume?
No, they wear it everywhere when they're in the building. You get it when you walk into the building, and you replace it when you walk out.
How exactly does that work for you guys as far as a monitoring system?
When you're within 6 feet of somebody, it beeps red, and it tracks how long you've been around someone over the course of the day. So, again, we're trying to keep everybody safe, but in the instance where someone does get sick, you're able to go back and through the contact tracing, see who they've been around, and make sure that we can quarantine those individuals for the proper amount of time.
Does quarterback management maybe look on how many you guys want to keep on the roster? Maybe that conversation looks a little bit different because you're in a pandemic and you might keep an extra guy or two that you weren't planning on keeping?
I think those are conversations that you got to have about quarterbacks and specialists in general. So, again, this will be an evolving process over the course of training camp. We don't need to make any season decisions right now, but those are certainly things that we have to think about and talk through as the weeks progress.
What's the mask policy, Coach? Masks everywhere, but on the football field, do you wear a mask everywhere else?
Yeah, our staff wears masks everywhere. The players wear them all in the building. Obviously, they don't wear them when they condition and things like that. But yeah, we're adamant that those guys wear them when necessary.
How about the walkthrough? Do the players wear the masks in the walkthrough?
Yeah, I think about every single player had them on. They take them off sometimes as they talk, but those guys have done a great job doing what we ask them to do.
Hey, guys, we are at the 15-minute mark, so how about just a couple more, please? Thank you.
Seeing how in Carolina they had like a scatter every 10 minutes, someone blows a horn and everybody walks away from each other to avoid that rule. Have you looked into things like that to avoid that being with it, the window of being too close for too long?
I think we're learning every day. This is the first day our whole team was on the field at the same time, and you're constantly asking players to distance from each other, and then we get back in the huddle and we're near each other. So we'll continue to evolve every single day as we get more information and our players start to understand. They do understand, that we can't be near each other all the time. And it's just some give and take when you're out there on the practice field, to be able to get the work that's needed and socially distance at the same time.
Is there any time frame for a huddle? I mean, like, do you have to get out in a certain amount of time or something in the huddle, or you just have a regular huddle?
Jeff, we always preach urgency in and out of the huddle. And so now more than ever, it's on us to have great urgency as we get the play call and put pressure on the defense to get to the line of scrimmage. So it just further aids what we're asking these guys to do.
Given your expectations for Burrow and what you want him to do week one, how do you go about the process of kind of unloading the playbook on him and kind of opening up throughout the preseason, especially with no games? How has that process been so far, and kind of what are the expectations on what that progression will be like?
Well, we'll go through our whole install. We'll get it all in, over these first 2 weeks, and then get a feel for what fits our unit this year. The best we can be, as we evaluate our linemen and our receivers and our quarterback. What are we going to have the most success with early in the season? And that's what we'll really tune into. But at the same time, we're relying on great feedback from our quarterbacks, things that they like and don't like, maybe don't understand, that need to spend more time on, because time is of the essence. We don't have as much time as we've had in years past. And so we're relying on those guys to give us honest feedback. And that room is always different. It's always different than any other room you coach. You have more candid conversations probably because of usually where they're at mentally. And so that doesn't change this year.
Did you say the players are wearing those wristbands at walkthroughs?
Yes.
So aren't they going off constantly in the huddle at the line of scrimmage?
There's a lot of red. Yep.
Coach, thank you for your time, and everyone, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.